This is a special video for all the people who love to make fraudulent and false claims still regarding the legal fiction Nolson. Quatloos is a government PSYOPs website where anybody who does anything remotely towards making steps to help people restore their rights and become free of the system are perpetuously slagged off on there. And obviously, with what it is that we're doing, we've got a few mentions, let's say, of legal fictions that are associated with Universal Law Community Trust. So, people will say, why are you feeding the trolls? We have to feed them every 6 months anyway. So, next time you hear any of these so-called truth or light workers implying that this thing was incarcerated unlawfully for fraud, you can send them to this link and tell them to shut the fuck up or prove their claim otherwise. The case that did incarcerate this being for 90 days. So bear in mind there was a sentence for 5.6 years. This is the original claim. You can see that this is there. Quatloos have very kindly put that up there for us, and you can read it yourself. Here is the word. You'll not find the word apathy in here at all, but you will find many mentions of the word cannabis, which is here. So, and it was for an amount of cannabis, 1.7 grams, 1.6 grams, 20.2 grams, 0.5 grams, 0.5 grams, 13.8 grams, 7 grams. And then in Ikaria, they found 133 grams and 109 grams. And it all amounted to 300 grams worth of cannabis. Now, and a baseball bat. That then obviously compounded into being an international drug trafficker and an arms dealer. So that's why they managed to heap 5.5 years against the legal fictions. The two legal fictions that are mentioned there. The case file reference number for anybody who is remotely interested in this is Alpha Beta Kappa, which is ABK 90/18 in the Ephetion in IOS. Okay, there you go. And I'm going to show you all of that so that you can, this one. And how this actually came about was in order for us to be able to exemplify what it was that happens if you follow these steps. Take off your number plates. So there was a Mitsubishi with the Porter number plates on. We decided to exemplify what it was. What happens if you don't use commercial plates? So the Porter was put on there. This is after they'd actually stopped me for not having a number plate on the front. There was a commercial plate on the back, but it wasn't really for that reason. That conveyance had been in circulation for nearly 2 years in that state. Now, the reason why they decided to try to get us to incarcerate us was because we'd actually opened the shop. Now, this legal system, it's not bothered about fraud, it's not bothered about your number plates, really. It's bothered about you affecting them commercially. And because we'd opened the shops and we were teaching everybody their rights and exchanging the kindness credits, the euros from slave tokens into kindness credits, and exemplifying your private banking abilities and your private exchanges that you can do free of that slavery token, they obviously decided that they were going to try to stitch us up. So at any time, obviously, we could have turned around and said, right, there's my number plates, that's my name, please let me go, there's my tax, there's, paid out protection, rackets, money, protection services to them, but we chose not to. Now, what actually happened in this instance, so there's a charge already for not having the number plates. They used a bank card, and obviously bank cards are not legal. It's not valid to use as legal ID, but they did in order to try to join that legal fiction to this thing. So the following day, we went into the police station and said we want to make a claim against you to the same policeman for laying false claim and trying to force obligations of performance void of valid contract. And he said, right, okay, so you're going to give us your passport now? And I said, well, actually, no, I'm going to use the same thing that you used yesterday, and pulled out the bank card. And he said, you can't use that, it's not valid to lay a claim with. And I said, thank you very much, because you just destroyed the claim that you made against me yesterday. Speak up with the camera. He obviously went screaming mad about us filming in the police station. We left with the recording, which was filed in the Kakodikia that came after all of this Malachias, which managed to get the other individual out, who only served 90 days. He'd served 180 days because he joined it with a lawyer. Now we did that. We chose to do that. We took two paths to exemplify what it was that happens if you do use a lawyer, and what it happens if you stand in your universal state of being as Minister and Vim. And obviously it takes 90 days through their banking system to find out that they couldn't actually go to the account and launder it for the 90 days that I'd been inside. So I became a rather large liability for them to keep me there, and they released me after 90 days. Now, what they then tried to do was they tried to deport me. Now, there are the videos there if anybody can bother to go and have a look. And obviously, these people are not bothered about going through those. They're just agents of presumption, as we've established. They took me then to the deportation centre, and the policeman there said, where are you from? And I said, I'm from the universe. Send me back there, please. And he said, no, what country are you from? I said, I do not recognise countries. They are borders in your mind. He said, what state are you from? And I said, I'm stateless. And he said, where is your ID? And I said, you are looking at it. And he picked up the warranty card and said, I can't recognise that. I don't recognise that. Where is your passport? I said, I don't have one. And he said, well, you're going to have to stay here until I've contacted every single embassy that's registered here in Greece to find out who it is that claims you. And I said, well, the reason why good luck with that. Because the reason why I'm standing here and not doing 5.5 years is because I've already been claimed by Universal Law, Community Trust, and that's why I'm here. So I resigned myself then, that was Friday night, to spend at least Monday till Monday in this horrible cell. And so I cleaned it all. And Saturday morning, the same policeman came and he said to me, hey, you missus, whoever you are, you need to get out. And I said, who, go where? He said, you, Artis Ellis, wherever you want. And so I said, I thought you were contacting every embassy here in Greece. And he said, I have, and nobody wants you. Now, I did all of this to prove, not to anybody else except really myself, that there is adding to the administration of the law. So what about if you don't add to the administration of the law? What happens then? And it turns out that you become unalienable because you haven't committed the fraud. You haven't laid a claim to something that's not yours. So those people standing there saying, she did time in Greek prison for fraud. No, I did time in Greek prison for not committing fraud upon my soul. Now, this rest of the structure, what happened after that, obviously, we got the order, we went to the court, they said that we didn't go to the court, that was on the 15th of April in 2019. There were 20 odd witnesses, including the police, and the videos. The videos were on Facebook of us taking the court into universal law jurisdiction. When they saw that we were going to go and peacefully surrender the straw men into the dock, because that's the only thing that they've got the jurisdiction of, they threw us out of the court twice. They then called another case, and at that point, then obviously all due process the case is dismissed. They left the bench twice, and all charges were discharged. However, we'd made a counterclaim. The reason why we'd made a counterclaim is because the cannabis that they had removed was actually for somebody who had a very serious case of cancer. And she died. The reason how we ended up with the cannabis in the police station was, unbeknown to me, the individual who had the cannabis. Um, uh, I'd given a lift to go to Bathy, and he offered to hold the camera while I went into the police station to put them on notice on the 8th of February that we were doing removal of goods over the road at the DE office for an outstanding debt amounting to in excess of 144,000 slave tokens at that point. And we were going to use that debt to discharge part of a little old lady's debt that the DE said that she'd got, which meant that she couldn't put her electricity on, and she was dying of hypothermia up the mountain in Punta. Now, if you call that fraud, then we've got just a different set of definitions. I call that kindness credits, and I was obliged to perform to uphold the law anyway. Whoever this was, whoever I'd made an agreement with to give my 5 hours to, and that's why I was there. Also for the injustice and the unjust enrichment of these corporations that have kept this knowledge from you and had you and coerced you to committing fraud on a massive scale by claiming that legal fiction as yours, giving away all the rights. So we'd gone then to the police station. They were over an hour in there. We got them on record there as well, of them obstructing us at the point where I pulled out a court order from 2012 in their own court that states that the DE or any other corporation they don't have the right to cut off your electricity anyway because it's yours, and you're actually granting the right of use of that share of that electricity to these corporations so they can commit their game of commerce with it, and don't tell you that, obviously. So they told us that it was going to take another hour. He got very obstructive. So I went upstairs and made a complaint to the chief of police, which we've got on record. He, again, was very obstructive. Said just send me in an email, said he'd already had it a year ago regarding all of this. Last year, which he had, we'd already been in there to see them about the incident with the car. No action obviously was taken because they are the people committing the fraud. So we went then across the road. I said, I haven't got time to wait here because we've got to go to the bank to stop them stealing somebody's house. So this is what my days look like while I'm committing fraud, according to these quatloos supporters. Now, when we got there, the electricity company had already been put on notice that we were coming. I explained to him that if we didn't restore this woman's connection, that we were going to take table chairs, laptops to the total amount of the last invoice that we'd sent them. He said, just look, give me the document and I'll fax it. And before we left the building, the lady's electricity was on. We then went out to the car, and by the time we were about to pull away, 2 police officers were standing at the window and asked us to come to speak to their chief about the number plates of the car. No, of course, I haven't got a problem talking to anybody about the number plates of the car, and I had actually rebutted the claim that they'd made. So it was a good opportunity to go back in there and find out what the hell's going on, really. So we went in and they searched the guy who I was with. He had a small amount of cannabis on him. I'd also left the rest of the cannabis in 2 buildings. One of them he was painting very kindly in exchange for the 5 hours that I'd given him and his family. I got sentenced to 5.5 years, but the legal fiction did that they tried to associate me with, which is not mine. So they fucked it up from start to finish, and then they compounded their fraud. Instead of saying, look, okay, we get it, they had to learn, obviously. They had to see it. Everybody has to see it. So they had to see it firsthand, as we all do. And so in April the 15th, 2019, there was a court case, like I just mentioned. And then they made the order. They didn't execute the order. They offered 21,475 euros and 75 cents. I could buy the 5-year sentence off at 11 euros a day. Now, I know, due to my background, that each day that you're in prison you make 111,000. Actually, it's 10 to the power of 10. So it's a lot of money that they weren't able to go to my credit file for and launder because I hadn't joined it with the name. So it's that simple. So obviously the other guy, we decided that he was going to get a lawyer and do the appeal and all of that, use the legal fiction, so that we had an exemplification of the exact same circumstances. What happens if you use universal law, and what happens if you use an administrative code in search for your legal remedy? He did 90 days, and it would have done more hadn't I gone to the Supreme Court of State on the 3rd of December 2019, which obviously I wouldn't have been able to do had I been doing 5.5 years before fraud. So anybody who wants to can check this out. And anybody who wants to, if you've got a claim against me and saying that I have defrauded you, go and do yourself a favour, put yourself a little packet together, use your legal fiction, put it in the court, go to your administrative court, put it in there, and I'm more than happy to initiate the trust in order for us to remedy this once and for all. And then you will also be able to bring your proof of claim, and that's why you haven't done it yet. So anybody who wants to make these claims, send them this link. This is going up on YouTube. Send them this link and just stand them down. Have a really beautiful day, helping so many people that they want to lock you up, and then you know that you've achieved something.